Now, evening, I have a wonderful guest today. Thank you for coming. It's very special for me, this guest, because she's an international guest, and I want to talk a little bit about her. She is a journalist. She is an international journalist she is working like many long time in Deutsche Welle, which is one of the more, or maybe the more important media in television in Germany. And she's working there many since many years. And before to start working, she was a professional swimmer. Yes. And she has a fantastic career. She is born in Canada, but she lived in Berlin since some years here in Germany. We are our transmission is here. Here we have the study in Cologne in Germany too, and I want to assure you that it could be a very interesting show today. We have here in the as guest Karin Helmstaedt. Let me know if I tell you that's right.
That sounds just fine. Thank you for having me.
It's okay. Yeah. So while I am trying to think all in English, because we both speak German too, and sometimes it's for me a little difficult. That happened to you too?
That's right. It does happen to me. I was thinking you could do this in Spanish, and I could just, if you had, we could do it in Spanish if you want. I'll just have to answer in English.
Yeah. Okay. No. We make it in English. I try my best. So
Okay.
today we have this very special topic. You know that here we are interested in about the topics that are very interesting, and we have in these days this Halloween, and we talk about witches. But it's not about Halloween. We talk today about witches, but how they how the woman, most of the times, are considered witches, but they don't. They are not, and they have in this period that the church bashed them to confess things that they never make. But let me ask Karin, how do you start with this investigation? You have a very special reason, and that is why, because of your family, because of your ancestors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I guess, my interest in the European witch hunts, and in this particular witch, started when I was very young, because I was on my first trip to Europe with my family, and my father is originally from Germany, and we were visiting some of the relatives whom I had never met, and I didn't speak German in those days, so it was kind of interesting, because we went to the town of Winningen. We were very close to there, visiting one of his aunts, and she told us, "Oh, you need to go to Winningen and visit the Hexenstein, the witch's stone, the witch monument there." And my father didn't know anything about it, and neither did I. But when we got into the car, and he said, "We have to go visit this town," and Tante Wiltrud just told me that we used to have a witch in the family, and I was, quite young. I guess I was 13 years old, and very impressionable, and that was something that impressed me greatly. And so we went and visited this monument, which is up on a hill overlooking the town. and saw the name of this ancestor, Margarete Kröber, that was on there. And I just never forgot about that. I really wondered to myself, how did this woman end up in this predicament? What was she accused of? Why was she considered a witch? I didn't really know. I mean, we were on a very short visit at that time. So as a child, obviously I couldn't, as a very young teenager, I couldn't do anything at the time, and I didn't speak the language. But, many years later, I just decided, okay, this is something that I really want to see if I can find out more about. So I did some research and discovered a historian in the area, Walter Rommel, and he's in my documentary quite prominently because I went down and spent 2 or 3 days with him and had interviews with him before going. And he was able to sort of help me research in the local archives, both in Winningen but also in neighboring Koblenz, where a lot of the protocols of the witch trials from the 17th century in that area are very well preserved. So the handwriting is very difficult because it's all 16th century, 17th century script, very difficult to read.
People need to know that the old books and all the things are like the Bible at the time. They are using another typography. No?
That's right.
And it's very, very difficult to read. It's
very difficult to read, which is why I was very grateful to Walter, because, I mean, he spent a lot of time with me going over these texts and sort of basically letting me know, why she had been accused, what she had been accused of, and how her very, very sad story went. And, of course, what I discovered, I also read his PhD thesis, which is a book, and he did a very, very comprehensive study of all of the witch trials in that area, so around Koblenz and all of the towns around. There were many of them, and he essentially, collated all of the data that he found in those Koblenz archives, and discovered a number of things, and wrote his thesis on that, and I read that thesis. And it was during the reading of that thesis that I discovered that this particular Margarete Kröber wasn't the only one. Her mother had also been implicated. She was the first witch, or the first person to be burned as a witch in Winningen. And then there were a number of other relatives from the same Kröber family. And interestingly enough, it was always sort of the people that married into the family. So there were people who were not happy about the Kröber family and their position in the town at the time, and it was essentially amounted to a societal attempt to kind of dismantle their power structure, whatever position they had in the town. It was an attempt to undermine that position. Yeah, and I have to apologize for the quality of my voice. I had a virus recently that took my voice.
You don't need it. We are both the same. We was together. I need to say that we planned to meet in Bonn because she was giving workshops, but we was both a little.
Both ended up being a bit under the weather and a bit too busy.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is about the climate, the other topic that we need to discuss in the future. It's changing very, very quickly, day by day. No, we are living very different. It's no more forestations, no? For seasons.
For seasons, yeah.
Yeah, no more for seasons, and then we have to try 365 seasons in the year.
Yeah, I was amazed when I was in Bonn how green the trees still were. It's the end of October and the trees are still largely green. Which is just it's very bizarre.
Yeah,
they're starting to turn.
I have already
now.
tomatoes on my plants. This is not normal for end October, no?
That's right.
Yes. It's very interesting that I want to say to people what means the word witch. And the word witch, the word witch means somebody that knows, somebody that have the experience and the knowledge. somebody that can do. So somebody that know about many things, and this is the original meaning of the word. But for some reason, especially the church, I think they have many reasons to say you cannot control this. It's only God. Is what reason do you think that is the reason? Is that only God can control what happened? Your health and your life is in the hand of God. That is why they are judged so hard to the woman at the time.
I'm not really sure about that. I mean, the legal conditions in Germany were to be able to consider somebody a witch and to accuse them as a witch were created in what they call the Carolina, which is a legal document that was created in I think it was 1532 by the Emperor Charles, if I'm not mistaken. I've actually written an article about that. I must admit I didn't go back and double check the date before speaking to you, but that essentially created the very first sort of legal basis to accuse a person of witchcraft and to actually put them through a trial and execute them. That was a very dangerous time. So that was, mid or early 16th century, and all of the witch trials that happened in this town where my family is from. It's the family of my grandmother, so my father's mother's side.
Side.
Yeah, and all of the witch trials that happened there happened between 1631 and 1659, I believe, was the last one. So it was over a number of years, quite a long period. And I guess what I found most interesting about that time as well is that there's been a lot of research done not only on what was happening and who and how these accusations came about, because it was all happening amongst the populace, amongst the townspeople. It really didn't have an awful lot to do with the church as an institution. What was happening was the climactic conditions in those days were very, very difficult. Already from the 14th century right up into the 18th century, there was a period called the Little Ice Age, which I knew nothing about before. And it was very interesting that a number of the historians that I talked to, the one, Wolfgang Behringer, he's also in my film, and he really did an awful lot of research on the correlation of witch trials happening in places where they were having just desperately bad harvests. I mean, their harvests were terrible. They either had too much rain and too much wetness and the crops were spoiled, or it was too cold and they couldn't even grow the crops. They had an awful lot of sickness as a result of that. Hunger was just a daily phenomenon. And this area where my family is from is a winemaking area, so very dependent on the local agriculture. And all of those conditions put together, people were looking for scapegoats. They were looking for a reason for this to happen. And the other factor that I learned was very, very significant for Germany, because of course the interesting thing is that with the European witch hunts, half of the entire number of deaths, which is sort of somewhere between 50 and 60,000 people, half of them were executed in Germany, in what is now Germany, so German-speaking area. And that was really shocking to me, and I was quite amazed to learn that. And of course there was the Little Ice Age going on, so all of these climactic issues that were difficult. There was also the 30 Years' War. We were right in the middle of the 30 Years' War there, so there was a lot of political upheaval, kind of just moving into the area where people started to think about ideas of enlightenment and whatever, but really 70 or 80 years before that sort of change in mindset came about in Europe. And one of the reasons that Germany ended up with so many witch trials, according to the historians that I spoke to, is because of a very fragmented governance system. So that's where the church actually came in, because you had principalities, you had small kingdoms, you had states that were run partly by religious heads. And the area that we're looking at with my family was actually run by a Catholic and a Protestant Oberhaupt. I can't find the word in English at the moment, but and so that entire county
it's a part of them.
That entire county was dealing with an awful lot of religious tension. So you had Catholic towns and Protestant towns, and the town that my ancestor came from was Protestant. And it was a Protestant town that was really surrounded by a largely Catholic area. And that created a little bit of a pressure cooker situation, if you will. That
some
the
politics,
Protestant
situation too. So
indeed.
it's the politic behind the religion.
Exactly.
The religion is an excuse to.
That's right. And the Protestant communities, according to Walter's research, and this was really very interesting, the Protestant communities actually were under pressure to prove that they were the better religion, that they were the more chaste religion, that they were more in tune with, you know, what the church was requiring and what God was requiring.
And that's the time from the creation from Gutenberg that the press on to make Bibles, no?
Exactly, and that was what allowed texts
Lutero,
like the Malleus Maleficarum to be widely distributed, and of course the Bible as well. Yeah, absolutely.
I was in the museum. I'm very interested in the theme. You know, I am developing the our editorial which is El Arca de Aine, and I am very interested in this thing, and it's a very for me it's a sour sweet sensation,
bittersweet,
because it's a great creation, but the reason is not a very good reason that which is happened. But we try to make some better this time with to expand this information that is very important, because we are working in the topic too in the right in the question from the context of the channel, you know. And this is I think that's the other topic that's very important. Is we are going later in that, but it's necessary to say that I discovered, thank you, and because of your investigation, that it's not disappeared. This persecution is always and today suddenly still
in many parts of the world. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We weren't even able to, you know, I mean, we had a time limit for the documentary, and it wasn't able to go over a half an hour at the time, and of course obviously limited resources. We had great troubles. I mean, we were basically doing all of this during the pandemic and partly during lockdown, and had to kind of, you know, navigate masks and couldn't travel to some of the places that I wanted to travel to. So we ended up being, unfortunately, a bit restricted in that sense. So, you know, the story that I think we managed to put together was an interesting one. What the other thing that really stood out for me, and I think that's very important for what you've just mentioned, with the fact that a lot of places in the world are still seeing witch hunts happening and executions for witchcraft. It is what the historical research shows is that there were 3 major waves of witch hunts. And during the 300 years of European witch hunts, they came in sort of 3 major waves. And those waves always corresponded to roughly a period of kind of about 80 years. And it's sort of interesting to see that is a very cyclical kind of pattern. It's the length of a good lifespan. And when you get to the end of that 80 years and people die out, the next generations forget what happened in the generations before. And
Yes,
so
and that's very sad.
the one generation that has gone through the witch hunts, and maybe, you know, I mean, it's tragic and terrible and a lot of injustice happened, but
Yes,
they kind of came out of it and decided, okay, we can stop that now because it's not even achieving anything for us.
yes,
The weather is still bad. The crops are still being destroyed, and disease is still around, and war is still happening, et cetera,
yeah,
et cetera. But then, you know, another few generations later, people start falling into the same patterns and into the same thinking patterns, into the same patterns of wanting to
yeah.
better their own situation
Yeah.
by
And
by bringing
we still in
down
this situation.
someone else. And we see it happening today, don't we? We see it happening over and over and over again. And I used to ask myself the question, why do we not learn the
Yeah.
lessons of
Good
history? Why do
question.
we not learn those
Yes,
lessons? But it's become
like
much clearer
waves.
to me through doing that research as to why that happens, as to why that you know, we just don't seem to learn. And we can see that evident in a lot of what's going on today. So for me, it has a very keen relevance in that sense.
Yeah, it's very interesting about you, about your personal process to living in different countries and
Hmm.
to come to discover this, because at the time you are not thinking about to make journalism, and you are even professional in your university on always to swimming. You started your career, and let me say a little bit that. I think that that is very interesting in the slide from Karin, that she start his work when she was at first professional swimmer, and then you start journalism daneben auf Deutsch.
Alongside, yeah,
Alongside,
alongside the
thank you.
swimming career. Yeah, that's sort of what got me into.
Yeah,
I
sometimes
did
I
get
forgot
into
some words.
journalism
I need to say it in German.
through the sporting,
but
my sporting activities,
but
definitely.
but I think it was something in your destiny about it to go to this place, and then many years later, to go again and make it this professional investigation, no? This
Yeah,
journalism.
it was kind of interesting because my father comes from Germany, and he's been in Canada for many, many years now, of
Yeah,
course. But the fact that I came back here, it did have a kind of a circular sort of feel to it, even at the time.
yeah,
Like when I ended up in Berlin, in East Berlin, so actually
yeah,
almost coming full circle
yeah.
to part of his heritage. And we have, as a family, have a tradition every 3 or 4 years to have a family reunion in Vinningen, or very close to
Wow,
Vinningen, in
that's
that
so deep.
town. You know, that was a
Woo.
that was a, so it was something that every few years we would travel all together and meet there, and we would do a walk on the Sunday
Wow.
up to this Hexenstein, to this witch's
Primicia,
monument.
primicia Aine del Río.
Yeah, and it was sort of interesting because every few years I'd be back there and would look at this stone, and we'd all stand around and look at the stone and see her
Wow.
name and sort of talk about it, but nobody knew anything more about her. And I I kind of looked for books and things. It was very, very difficult. There wasn't a whole lot of information in the earlier years. Now, of course, there's a lot more online, and Vinningen has done some great work to actually make a historical trail. You can now go with your mobile phone and kind of,
Yeah,
call
yeah,
up all the
yeah.
barcodes, all the QR codes, and
Yes.
read certain historical events that have happened in the area. They've done a really nice job with that. But they're just, I would come away each time with this question in my head: why did that happen? And
Yeah.
eventually, and I guess it was also partly due to the lockdown, that I started thinking about projects that I could be
Yes,
doing,
yes, we
and
are like me.
approached approached one of the people in my department about this and said, I don't think we've ever done anything about witches. And
was that your idea that you proposed that to the
oh yeah,
Deutsche Welle?
yeah,
You
yeah.
yeah. I want to ask you if you proposed the idea of become a
Definitely.
flow or
Yeah,
very
yeah. No, I had an idea. I had the idea that
fantastic.
I wanted to figure out this story, and initially I was thinking of doing a report, like a 6-minute report or
Yeah,
something for a
but
completely
then
different
grow up.
format for our culture magazine.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I want to go do a report on this. I've got this ancestor. She was a witch, or she was burned as a witch,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
I want to go find out about that. And he said, wow, that's
The
really exciting.
people is
So
wow.
so I started doing the research, and I started researching more and
I can
more and
imagine
more
your
and
boss
more.
saying,
And
"Do it, do it."
the research took me so far that
Wow.
eventually I was talking to a colleague of mine, Ulrike Sommer, who was my co-author and co-producer on this film, and we talked about it. And eventually, I said to her, this is just not a 6-minute story. This is a much bigger story.
Yes,
I said,
yes, yes,
there's no way I can, like, we'll miss too much if we just put this
yes.
into a
You
report, like
start
it's
to
not just going to be,
grow
it's
up.
not just going to be a report. So that's when it grew into something bigger.
Yes.
And, I went and met with the historians and had endless talks with Walter, and traveled down there, and yeah, then we had to kind of look at how we could connect the story. And it was through Wolfgang Behringer and reading his book that actually, we discovered that this is still going on. The sort of Africa element and the South Asia element. And I mean, there are even places like Saudi Arabia that also, have, for a while, they also had an actual witch squad of in their police, that would actually go out and sort of
Wow.
find people and accuse people. So a lot of elements that we couldn't bring into it, but what we were able to crystallize was really something that I think in the end, again, says a lot about the cyclical nature of history and how generations forget, and how there are certain universal themes
I
going
think
on.
there are many people don't want to remember because it pains. It pains. No?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard
It's
and
interesting, and it's interesting now that the film has done really well on YouTube, and we're well over 300,000 views at this point in
yes.
English
You
and
need
in
to see it in
Spanish.
the Deutsche Welle. You need to see it
Yeah, exactly. If you
directly.
go to our YouTube channel, it's there
Yes.
to watch, and you can put the links down in your show
Yes.
notes.
Yes.
I would
I
appreciate
going
that.
to
That would be
make it.
great to hear
Yes.
from your viewers. And a lot of people obviously believe that it was entirely the church that motivated all of this. And
Yes.
this is the sort of the misconception, I guess, that I was able to, at least for myself, correct, was
Mm.
that the church played a part in every part of life in those days. But
Yes.
the actual impetus in this area of Germany to go after people for witchcraft came from the populace. It came from the people, the townspeople,
Yeah.
and a lot of times, to get back to the point of the fractured governance that I was talking about, the people in charge of the various counties, and they were sort of prince folked. They had
Yeah.
very many different titles. The people in all of these different counties and areas, they didn't have an awful lot of choice sometimes. Like they let these things happen because the people needed to somehow,
Yeah.
protest the fact that
They need
they had nothing
they
to
need
lose. They
somebody
had,
guilty, no?
yeah,
Guilty.
they needed to make somebody responsible. And
Yeah.
of course it would take, 10 to 15 years for them to realize, well, we've killed this many witches and we're still having this
But
trouble. Yeah. Anyway, it certainly is tragic. What I also found incredibly poignant was to discover exactly what this one woman, Margareta Kröber, what she had gone through. I mean, the fact that she lost her own mother
oh,
to a witch trial in 1631. And then many years later, was trying to establish her own life. She actually was married a first time to another man before she married the man in my family. So before she married into my family. And she had a child with that man, her first husband. She lost the husband, then she lost the child, then she married a second time into my family. And she had 2 boys, and those boys were very young when she was taken from them. I mean, she was, I don't have an exact record of her birth date, but I'm assuming that she was sort of somewhere in her 20s, maybe late 20s when they executed her.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, just what everybody then, and then her 2 boys had to go through life having lost their mother at age 3 and 6. And of course, their father married another woman before the year was up. He wasn't single a year,
Yes, yes.
Then he had another wife, and she was there to look after the kids. And it seems to me, and this is part of the story that comes out in my film, I mean, when she was being accused, she asked her husband to come and vouch for her. She asked him to come and help and get her out of this situation, tell them that this is not true. And he failed her. He failed her. I think probably with the view to maintaining his position in the community and his job. And it's interesting that his job as a magistrate at that time was a job that was very dynastic in a way. They handed the jobs down. So his father had the same job. He had a job. His son then had the same job after him, and a number of his cousins and whatnot were also in similar positions, and there was obviously a lot to lose, and people tried to take them down by going after their wives. To a large degree, and it didn't necessarily work, but it certainly scarred and harmed and damaged those communities.
It's hard, but I need to say they take the we say in Spanish el eslabón más débil de la cadena, when you have a chain and you have this they take the woman for do that. They take the woman. That's interesting thing is when something happened, is always guilty. The woman is always guilty at this point. But sometimes they want to have also the land. They want to have the land. About interest is the thing, no. So let me show the place that you the place
I'm talking about.
The place that all everything happened. Give me a second that I want to share this picture that is beautiful and sad, I need to say. I am showing that you looks there.
Yeah, that's it's really quite a solemn place.
Yeah. This is very.
I'll have to send you another version. We'll have to trim the edges off there. That's a screenshot from my from my computer screen.
Yeah, I put it in first plane. It's now it's a very quiet place. I can imagine, no, the people around.
Yeah, it was actually interesting because we did the filming just around this time. We were there in mid-October, and you can see the trees are sort of starting to yellow in some places, but it was still very green. And it has she was executed in November, so we're almost actually to the date. She was executed on November 15th, 1642. So it'll be 381 years on the 15th of November. Yeah. It's interesting because I always find this time of year very melancholy in that way, because it was right about this time that she would have been
I can feel it.
imprisoned.
I can feel it in the picture.
Yeah.
It's very melancholic.
Tortured and interrogated and put through a horrible ordeal. Yeah. So it was interesting because when the film came out, and I was able to alert my family to it, and they could watch it. And it was really lovely to see the reactions and to have the feeling that you could actually give a voice to this long lost
That is
relative, that
exactly my feeling.
nobody knew anything about her, and they were just amazed at how much information I was actually able to find out about her. And so that was really gratifying. It was lovely.
Yes, for sure. You know, I believe in this situation. I believe that we are in communication with our ancestors
Ancestors.
always, and I can imagine that you feel like a call about her. No? Help me. Let the truth go out. No, and
That's
it's
right.
very important
Yeah.
because he can, maybe because of you, and think of you on the investigation that you make, you have your line now of your ancestor. They can rest in peace. That is
Yes.
my
Yeah.
my feeling.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah,
they've been vindicated to a degree, right? They've been
yeah,
rehabilitated, and
yes,
it's interesting that the community in Vinningen, there were a number of people also there who reacted really very positively, and just said
hmm,
it's like a historical document, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to sort of tell the story. And of course, I have to mention that I worked with Basia Gandis, who's a young Polish artist who worked very closely with me to recreate sort of the scenes, because I mean we didn't have any film material from 1642. I mean, it was
for sure.
impossible to do that. So that was quite challenging, but also a really wonderful collaboration to
Hmm.
actually just give her a face and give her story some magnitude and some visuals. And that was it made it all very real for the family and for anybody who watches the story. And
I can.
there are stories like this all over the place. There are stories in England, and Scotland, of course, had
Yes,
had a
United
large
States,
number of women
Spain.
persecuted for witchcraft.
Yes, yes,
There were, of course, the trials in Salem in Massachusetts, and in many, many places, even in the countries that didn't have massive witch hunts like Germany did. I mean, there were incidences in Iceland, in France, in Italy, in Poland, of course.
yes.
And we couldn't fit it all in. I mean, I'm now completely obsessed with
Yes,
witch
yes,
history everywhere I go. I've
I can
started
understand.
madly photographing
I have I have
monuments
I
and
have an
memorials.
information for give
Mhm.
you, and
Oh,
I want to give you later that I am with my people when I keep that working in Spain. I was talking about that you come. Let me say thank you. The keep from Matiada Omni on Matiada Paranormales.
mhm,
That somebody in Spain that is working. That Jose is working on that in Alcañiz, and he found out. But because I see in your video, in your investigation, that the man, the history that about history talk. I don't know the
mhm.
name. And he talk about that is in Spain is not like that. That people are not dying, but yes, indeed,
There were some, yes, there
yes,
were some.
and
He said that the Spanish Inquisition didn't
yes,
believe in
yes.
witchcraft,
I
which of
was a
course.
little confused about this thing,
Mm,
but he confirmed so Jose confirmed me that in his town is the houses are painted in blue. That's about these witches, no?
oh,
And I have some pictures too. And it is two places in this place in Alcañiz that was the Inquisition working on. I have
mhm.
the material, and I send the people to research more, and we can show it maybe next time, because we
Okay.
decide to make maybe some other part about. because
Sure, that would be
we have
great.
many so much material to show. Let me show now the video from the monument where
Yeah, sure.
the names of your ancestors.
Yes.
And I share that now. Okay, we are there.
No, that's I have that on my Instagram.
Yeah.
I made that for Instagram, yeah.
Hexenhügel.
Hexenhügel. Hill. The Witch's Hill.
Oh, Hügel.
So that is exactly where the execution spot was.
Wow.
And that's why where I basically said in the film that this hill is a mass grave. I mean, that's where all of these executions took place up there. So.
Wow, in den dunkelsten Zeit der Aberglaubens and
in the darkest time of superstition.
Superstition, okay. So between
in the years 1641 to 1651. That's not entirely correct, unfortunately, because the date on this stone of the mother's death is wrong. They've put it at 1641, but it was actually 1631. And the last people were killed in 59, I think, and there were definitely a couple in 53. So that's not entirely correct. This stone was put up. Fanden hier den Feuertod. They found their death by fire, is what that says. Yes. Yeah, I went here with Walter, and Walter told me, he said, that this is wrong, and of course his research had shown.
But it's very interesting that we can find out what has really happened. Maybe they can verificate it.
This is an interesting question as to whether they would ever correct this stone, because the stone is the oldest.
You make a right investigation.
The stone, as far as we know, is the oldest witch monument in Germany, and it was put up in 1925. So it was put up even before World War II, which is very interesting. So they were already looking at kind of commemorating that part of history at that time, and of course their research of the archives was probably not nearly as complete as Walter's was.
You're a better journalist.
Well,
say that.
I've a lot of people have left comments on the film, and some people come and have some obscure point of knowledge from somewhere else. It's really amazing to me.
Yes, I was reading the comments in your film, in YouTube. I was reading and liking the comments.
Indeed. I mean, there are so many super interesting responses, and I'm grateful for all of them, really, because I've learned a number of things.
Yes.
And it's, I mean, the research can never be complete, I think, but it's certainly something. It's a subject that is very close to my heart, and I think I will, stay with it. And there will be a few other things that I will do.
For sure,
in the wake of this story. Yeah. Anyway,
yes.
It's been lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. So, we can see again the names there. Maria Knebel und Margarete, viele, many Margarete.
Many Margarets.
Many Margarete, I see that. Ne?
It's amazing.
One man.
There's one, and there's one on this side too. There's one on this side at least. Peter Möhlich up there. It's also a man.
Magdalene.
And Antonios at the bottom, also a man.
Yeah. But normally.
And there's another man that was executed as well, and he's not even on there.
Oh.
Yeah. So there's a few people missing.
Oh, well, maybe they can correct that with some additional. Yeah,
someone asked me if I was going to, write a petition to the town to actually have them officially pardoned, because they've never been pardoned. They've put the monument there, but they've never been pardoned. And that's quite a process. I'm not necessarily sure that it's going to bring a lot. I think to have them there. And the other question would be, should one replace that monument with a better one, with an accurate one? That's a good question. I'll have to talk to a couple of people in Vinningen about that. If anybody thinks it's important enough, then we could start a process. But
yeah, I think yes, it's very interesting because many people visit the area and they are going out with a wrong idea about it.
Yeah.
And we can correct that. I mean,
we could.
Oh, let me be a part. So that is the man that is in Koblenz, in the historic.
He's the local historian that I worked with, Walter. Yeah,
yes.
He's fantastic. He just
nice. Very nice.
Was incredibly thorough, and he was, we went to the archives here to look at the trial protocol of my ancestor, of Margarita, but he got out.
You look very touched.
He made sure that they got us the one for the mother as well, so that I could actually compare the stories and learn what had happened to both of them. So that was really helpful. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting.
So, I could have made about 3 films.
You could. I didn't hear. Sorry.
I could have made 3 films. There was so much information.
I know. I am. You can show it. I could be very, very proud to do, and I am very grateful with you because of your generosity to share this information with our public. I have not so many. I cannot reach so many people like a national program, but it's very interesting that I am. Later I would translate it, and this history is coming through many other countries in Latin America, in the United States, in Mexico, in Argentina, in Chile, in Uruguay, in Peru, in Bolivia, and in Spain, even and other countries too. That is why I find it very interesting to share with the people.
Okay, I look forward. We can talk again sometime, and thank you very much for having me. And I hope you can put all those links in the bottom of your show notes so that people can find the 2 different versions. And
yes, for sure. Yes, for sure, Karin. I want to tell you many things. It was short but nice to have you. I think that we have very interesting topics to discuss. Also about it, I have more material to show that you send me. We can send. We can show that in another time in a second part, maybe.
Do a second part, sure.
Maybe we could be better of the boys, both of us.
That's right. Let's take some time to recover.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. And remember, you can see Karin in the Deutsche Welle always. You work in the English version, but also in the Deutsche version, no?
I actually am working sort of almost more in the German version at the moment. It's always a little bit sort of here and there. It changes constantly.
Okay. So thank you very, 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 very,
pleasure.
Very, very much. I am very happy to have you. So Ainedas, we see in a few moments. I'm going to make the translate in a live show. That after if you don't understand English, the people that don't understand English very well, then can have a version of Spanish. Thank you so much.
Gracias.
And I see you in the next time. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Karin Helmstaedt. Thank you.